But first, let's talk to Tyson Langhofer, Senior Counsel at the Alliance Defending Freedom, about the recent Supreme Court case that could potentially overturn Roe v. Wade. It's time now for Weekly Briefing. Tyson Langhofer, Senior Counsel at the Alliance Defending Freedom. ADF has been a strong supporter of the right to life and represented many clients in similar cases and many cases at the Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court heard oral argument this week on Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. We've heard a lot about this case and possibly overturning Roe v. Wade. For those that may not be aware, what are the facts of this case and what's the procedural history? How did it get to the Supreme Court?
Well, Mississippi enacted a law which bans abortion after 15 weeks because they believe that it's in the interests of Mississippi to protect unborn children and the health and well-being of women. Unfortunately, immediately after the law was passed, an abortion clinic challenged the law, indicating that it was somehow violated Roe versus Wade. A district court violated the law, and then the Court of Appeals upheld the overturning of the law. And so the Supreme Court took this case.
So what's the specific issue? We know they heard oral argument earlier this week, and the result will come out sometime. The opinion will come out sometime probably in June. What are they considering? What are they looking at?
Well, the issue is in Roe versus Wade and in Casey versus Planned Parenthood, the court has indicated that states cannot restrict abortion prior to viability. And the Mississippi law prohibits abortion after 15 weeks. Viability is about 22 weeks. So the Supreme Court has to decide, can any state restrict abortion prior to the viability of an unborn baby?
It's an interesting issue because they're claiming it's a constitutional issue, but how is viability of human life a constitutional issue? Human gestation actually isn't really addressed in the Constitution. What's the response to that?
It actually isn't. And that was actually a large part of the oral argument yesterday. They talked about this. And what's everybody really needs to understand is that the right to abortion is nowhere in the text of the Constitution. And none other than Justice Ginsburg indicated that Roe was wrongly decided, that it was not grounded in sound constitutional principles. And so the argument was, should we uphold a precedent that just because it's been around for 50 years? And what many justices recognize is we shouldn't. We've overruled all kinds of wrong decisions that did not respect the foundational American right to life.
So what happens, let's say the Supreme Court sides with the conservative, comes out with an opinion that says Mississippi does have the right to create this law. That doesn't just automatically go away. Roe v. Wade doesn't just automatically go away. What happens? How does that work?
Yeah, so all that the Supreme Court is deciding is whether states have the right to protect both the interests of the unborn children and mothers. Do they have that right? So this will go back to the states, and then we, the people, get the right to decide, because that's how our American Constitution works. Something that's not in the Constitution then goes to the people, and the people decide. And what we know is that America has always respected life, both the life of unborn children and women. We can do both.
That actually is in the Constitution. If it's not written in the Constitution, it goes to the people. So
that's right.
Amazing how that works. Here's a clip from MSNBC with the pro-abortion view. This is an MSNBC correspondent explaining why abortion is necessary.
When you look at the science, the outcomes for women who are denied abortion are extraordinary. And that is because this huge study of more than 1,200 women found that the physical, mental, and financial effects on women who could not get the services they wanted went on and on.
What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, I disagree with his summary of the science. There are all kinds of studies showing that abortion is harmful to women. Obviously, it's harmful to the unborn child. They don't get to live. So when we're talking about respecting life and rights of humans, this law does that. But here's something that's really important to understand. America is one of 6 countries in the entire world, including China and North Korea, which allow unfettered access to abortion up through the 9th month of pregnancy. So we're in league with China and North Korea. So the vast majority of women in the world do not have access to abortion after 15 weeks.
Right. There's so many interesting legal issues. I can't wait to see how this comes out and talk to you about that as well. ADF currently has a hot topic case right now out of Wisconsin. Kettle Moraine School District has gone woke. What are the facts of that case?
Well, it's a scary one for all parents. So a 12-year-old girl was experiencing increasing anxiety and depression, and a counseling program pushed her to say that she was a boy. Her parents wanted to give her time to work through her anxiety and depression, but the school officials said that they were going to refer to that student with whatever name or pronoun the student chooses and ignore the desires of the parents.
So the parents are basically saying, we're going to transition your daughter to be your son, and you can't do anything about it.
That's what the school is telling the parents, absolutely.
And where is this case at in the process?
So we have just filed this case, and we're going to be asking the court to stop this policy because the policy specifically provides authority to school officials to not only not tell the parents, but to even deceive the parents. Many of these actually says, if you refer to the girl as a boy at school, you will use girl pronouns, female pronouns when you're talking to the parents, so they don't know what we're doing.
Wow, that is astonishing. What is the school board's rationale for taking this position?
You know, what they're doing is they're putting ideology over science, over parental rights, over knowing that what a 12-year-old girl is going through, knowing that she has been diagnosed by a counseling program with anxiety and depression. And instead of giving her time to work through that, as all of us need to work through issues when we're 12 years old, they're pushing her into this radical ideology, telling her that they somehow can change her biological sex. But most importantly, they're treating the parents as if they're a problem or an afterthought, rather than partnering with parents to do what's in the best interest of the children.
That seems like insanity to me. At what point do people and parents have rights? At this rate, the only people who will have rights are government officials.
Well, that's absolutely right. And that's the scary part. And what's really scary is this is not an isolated policy. We got this policy in Loudoun County right now, where we represent teachers that are challenging a similar policy, which forces them to refer to girls as boys and boys as girls. And it allows them and tells them if the parents don't support that, you need to lie to those parents about what you're doing with their children.
Wait, okay, this is bananas. So the school board is telling teachers who don't want to refer to a student by a different gender, whose parents also don't want the student addressed by a different gender, the school board is saying you have to refer to them as a different gender.
Absolutely are. And that's completely contrary to what the Constitution says. The Supreme Court has held that the government can never compel someone to speak messages they disagree with. They have allowed teachers to say, you don't have to say the Pledge of Allegiance. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to participate in that because we're not going to force you to do something like this. But in this case, what our clients are wanting, they're saying, look, we'll refer to the student with whatever name they choose. We just don't want to be forced to say something we think is untrue and we think is harmful to the children because it would be lying to them.
This is, I don't know if it's terrifying or infuriating for anybody that has a child in a public school setting. Does this apply just to public schools? Is it just this specific school board or location, or how broad could this go?
Well, every school board has the right to adopt their own policies. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is we're getting calls from teachers and parents and students across the country saying, this type of ideology is coming to my school. They're trying to force a one-size-fits-all ideology on parents, teachers, and students. And they're trying to say that only our opinion matters. And if you have a different opinion, we're going to punish you. And so that's the scary thing, is like the Constitution recognizes that parents have a fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children. And the schools are just ignoring that and saying, we're going to impose our ideology on your children.
That's astonishing. So when people call in and say, I'm nervous, I'm upset because this is coming to my school and coming to my children, what do you tell them to do? What are their options? If viewers watching say, I want to take action on this, I want to have a part in being a solution to this, where do they go and what do they do and how do they push back on this?
Well, that's why we have hope, because in Loudoun County, parents are awake now. They know, they're pushing back, they're going to board meetings and they are putting pressure, and because of their action, they had that issue was the central issue in the Virginia governor race, and it put Governor Youngkin over the top. And so they have the right. So if you're concerned, go to the board meetings, speak out, stand up for the rights of your children, stand up for the rights of teachers, because teachers don't lose their constitutional rights when they step across the schoolhouse gates.
And you make an interesting point about the Youngkin campaign. I think that was an eye-opener for everybody, going, oh, parents really don't like this school board issue. How important is it, or what recommendations do you have for parents for elections, specifically for elections as it relates to these issues?
Well, I think what they need to do is they need to get active, get involved, know what curriculum is being taught in your schools, know what your board members believe about what parents' rights are, about what teachers' rights are, what students' rights, and then if you don't agree with them, run for office or support the people that support your values, but don't be passive.
That is absolutely great advice. Run for office. When we come back from the break, our panel of experts discuss dishonest media and the consequences. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.